the Cold War era, a period marked by intense rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, led to the creation of one of the most infamous and controversial programs in American history, Project MK-Ultra. Launched by the CIA in the early 1950s, MK-Ultra was a clandestine operation designed to explore mind control techniques through human experimentation. The project not only violated ethical norms, but also left a trail of suffering and trauma in its wake. In this video, we will delve into the origins, methods, and aftermath of MK-Ultra, shedding light on the horrors that unfolded in the name of national security. The beginning of MK-Ultra can be traced back to the early 1950s, when the CIA became increasingly concerned about reports suggesting that communist nations had developed mind control techniques. The fear was that these techniques could be used to manipulate or brainwash individuals, turning them into unwitting agents of the enemy. In response, the CIA sought to develop its own methods of mind control, leading to the creation of MK-Ultra in 1953 under the direction of Allen Dulles, the then director of the CIA. The program was part of a broader effort to gain the upper hand in the Cold War. The CIA was determined to uncover a way to control human behavior, whether for use in interrogations, to extract confessions, or even to create Manchurian candidates, individuals programmed to carry out assassinations or other acts without their conscious awareness. The project was initially conceived as a means of defending against potential Soviet mind control techniques, but it quickly expanded into a full-scale investigation of various methods to alter human cognition and behavior. MK-Ultra was spearheaded by Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist who became the project's chief architect. Gottlieb was known for his unorthodox and secretive approach, and under his leadership, MK-Ultra evolved into a sprawling network of sub-projects, each exploring different facets of mind control. The program was overseen by the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence, with cooperation from other branches of the military, including the United States Army Biological Warfare Laboratories. Gottlieb and his team operated with virtually no oversight, and the secrecy surrounding the project allowed them to conduct experiments that would have been unthinkable in a more transparent environment. They sought to discover substances and techniques that could manipulate mental states, weaken individuals' willpower, and induce confessions or compliance. The most disturbing aspect of MK-Ultra was its reliance on human experimentation. The CIA targeted vulnerable populations, mental patients, prisoners, drug addicts, and even children, often without their knowledge of what was really going on or consent. The agency's methods were brutal and inhumane, ranging from the administration of psychoactive drugs to electroshock therapy, sensory deprivation, and physical and psychological torture. One of the most infamous drugs used in these experiments was LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, a powerful hallucinogen that was relatively unknown at the time. The CIA believed that LSD could be the key to unlocking the human mind, either by inducing a state of vulnerability in subjects or by enhancing interrogation techniques. To this end, the agency purchased the entire global supply of LSD and began administering it to unwitting subjects. The experiments were carried out in various settings, including hospitals, prisons, and even CIA safe houses. In one particularly notorious operation known as Operation Midnight Climax, the CIA set up brothels in San Francisco and New York, where sex workers would lure men to the safe houses. The men were then secretly dosed with LSD and observed through one-way mirrors as CIA agents recorded their reactions. The goal was to study the effects of the drug on behavior and to see if it could be used to extract confessions or secrets. Another horrifying example involved psychiatric patients at hospitals, where doctors administered high doses of LSD to mentally ill patients over extended periods, sometimes lasting months. In one case, A mental patient in Kentucky was given LSD every day for 174 days. The psychological toll on these subjects was immense, with many suffering long-term effects, including severe mental illness, trauma, and, in some cases, death. The CIA employed various methods to recruit subjects for its experiments, often using deception and coercion. Some individuals were tricked into participating, believing they were part of legitimate medical research. Others were coerced, threatened, or outright forced into the experiments. The agency also used prisoners, offering them reduced sentences in exchange for their participation, although many were not fully informed of the risks involved. One of these prisoners just happened to be James Whitey Bulger, an American organized crime boss who led the Winter Hill Gang. Bulger volunteered for what he was informed was an experiment focused on finding a cure for schizophrenia. During this experiment, he was administered LSD daily for over a year. It later dawned on him that the experiment had nothing to do with schizophrenia. Instead, he was being used as a test subject in a government study to observe the long-term effects of LSD on individuals. The aim was to determine if continuous LSD administration could cause a person to lose their sanity. Bulger later recounted his experiences, which he found deeply traumatic. He believed he was losing his mind. He wrote, "I was in prison for committing a crime, but they committed a greater crime on me." Near the end of his life, Bulger came to fully understand what had been done to him. He even told his friends that he planned to track down the doctor in Atlanta who led the experiment in the penitentiary and kill him. Additionally, the CIA used front organizations to fund research at universities, hospitals, and other institutions, masking the true nature of the experiments. Many researchers were unaware that their work was part of a broader CIA operation, while others were fully complicit, driven by the prospect of funding or career advancement. The survivors of MKUltra's experiments often endured lifelong physical and psychological scars. Many were left with severe mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and PTSD. One notable survivor was Frank Olson, a scientist who worked with the CIA, was covertly dosed with LSD without his knowledge. Olson suffered a severe mental breakdown as a result, and later died under mysterious circumstances, allegedly by taking his own life. His death remains controversial, with many believing he was murdered to prevent him from exposing the program. Another survivor, Harold Blower, was a professional tennis player who sought treatment for depression at the New York State Psychiatric Institute. Unbeknownst to him, Blower was injected with mescaline derivatives as part of a secret army experiment. He died shortly after one of these injections, and his family fought for years to uncover the truth about his death. In Canada, Dr. Ewan Cameron, a prominent psychiatrist, conducted experiments on patients at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal as part of MKUltra's sub-projects. Cameron used techniques such as psychic driving, where patients were subjected to continuous recorded messages played through headphones, combined with massive doses of LSD and electroconvulsive therapy. Many of Cameron's patients were left permanently damaged, suffering from memory loss, personality changes, and other severe psychological effects. As public scrutiny of government activities intensified in the 1970s, particularly after the Watergate scandal, the CIA grew increasingly concerned about the potential exposure of MKUltra. In 1973, then CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MKUltra records, effectively erasing much of the evidence of the program's existence. However, some documents survived, having been stored incorrectly, and were later uncovered during a Freedom of Information Act request in 1977. The revelations about MKUltra led to widespread outrage and prompted investigations by the U.S. Congress, including the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission. These investigations exposed the full extent of the CIA's illegal activities and the human rights abuses committed under the guise of national security. The investigations also led to changes in the laws governing human experimentation and the oversight of intelligence agencies. Despite these revelations, many of the individuals responsible for MKUltra faced little to no consequences. Sidney Gottlieb, the mastermind behind the program, retired quietly and lived out his days without facing prosecution. The survivors of MKUltra, however, were left to grapple with the trauma inflicted upon them, with many receiving little to no compensation or acknowledgement of their suffering. This story sounds like it came straight out of the Captain America comic books or the Jason Bourne movies. However, as is so often the case, the truth is far more disturbing than the fictional adaptations. Project MKUltra remains a dark and disturbing chapter in American history, a grim reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the lengths to which governments may go in the name of security. The program's legacy is one of pain and suffering, but it also serves as a powerful lesson about the ethical boundaries that must be upheld, even in times of national crisis. The survivors of MKUltra and the revelations of its horrors have left an indelible mark on the American consciousness, ensuring that the lessons learned from this dark period are not forgotten.